morning, good afternoon. So first of all, I would like to really thank you for inviting me for this presentation, right? While I call this presentation, I would like it more communicative and have a two-way communication possible. So great honor amongst the industry leaders, founders, inventors, innovators, and wonderful discussion since morning, speaking about multiple topics here. So what I just want to highlight is that see this presentation and narration is more some of the ideas what we have been looking through in terms of adoption of the technologies, right? And increasingly since what should be the topic of discussion coming to the technology, I specifically told it, okay, let us make this as a platform driven enterprises. That is a topic that has specifically been thought through, which I would like to speak through for the next 15 minutes. Next slide. Okay. So just put some pictures for everybody's understanding, right? What are the various trends and how the various industries are transforming, right? So first thing is that let me talk, we all take a ride share to come to the office and everywhere. So the automobile companies, right, who typically want to be known as engineering, traditional automobile engineering company, they don't want to be positioned like that. They started telling that we want to be a mobility platform company, right? And if you go and see clients, companies like Schlumberger's, they said that we don't want to be called as oil field equipment company, we want to be an as a service provider. If you go to an elevator company, they said that we want to be not as an elevator company, but we want to reposition ourselves as a people movement as a service company, right? And then if you see, go to the healthcare, medical equipment manufacturer, they say that we don't want to be known as a medical equipment manufacturer, but we want to be known as an end-to-end healthcare solution provider. So if you go to a banking company, I don't know how many of you visited last ATMs or to the banking office, primarily everybody have in the mobile only the complete banking platform, whether you want to buy loans or whether you want to buy electronics, any retail, you all log into a platform. So what we see is that every industry has transformed and every industry have tried to put their enterprise strategy into some kind of a platform, right? And hence platform will become an important source of customer engagement, customer experience. It will help to, everybody is interested on growth, then how do we drive hyper growth, ecosystem connections and drive operational efficiency, which they eminent during the last discussion which we had with the team, right? So this is one idea and great idea about from the technology adoption points, how do we bring in a kind of a strategy of your company or an enterprise, people work on the real estate sector to bring in through, right? So this is one. The second thing is that why this becomes an important, right? So we all know our GDP growth and already you know that, right? People use Uber, we use Swiggy, we use Netflix or Amazon. In some way or the other, we will be using these platforms. And why these platforms become important for us is that it becomes even a way of life, right? So it is not only in across the industries, more and more our mobile phone became smartphones, normal TVs became smart TVs. Then how do we make normal transport a smart transportation? Normal healthcare becomes smart healthcare. So I was also trying to find out what does this word smart means? And that is highly applicable for the entire real estate because we deal with a lot of physical assets. There are a lot of capital intensive. The cash is the cash is entirely blocked. And how do we make the best use of all of it? And what the smart means? And since we are dealing with all the physical assets within the and various asset classes of the real estate, there are three fundamental capabilities when you are thinking about the platform creation and solutions around the platform creation. The first thing is around instrumenting, right? If you have a physical building, physical air conditioning, lighting, equipment, walls even, right? We started people talking about can the walls talk or the first fundamental capability that is required something to make smart in whatever we do is instrumented. Because we are all instrumented with mobile, we are able to communicate, talk, seamlessly share the emails, respond, be responsive fast, and that is also helping us to scale fast in terms of doing our work in a much more efficient way. So that is one part of the idea of what can be made smart in whatever we try to do as part of the business. The second one is, because you are taking data from various physical assets, right? By default, you can create an interconnected story, right? And hence this platform, whether in a particular building or particular township, you are able to connect the service providers, facility management, whoever is present. By default, you are able to build an interconnected system through this platform. So whatever we develop, once you instrument, the data is going to come and flow, and because the data is coming and flowing in, there is an interconnected capability that gets built in the platform. The third important point is all about also, hence we got the data, but how do we make sense of it? Because all this data is telling some story about the way we run our process, right? Whether it's a maintenance process, I heard about the design documentation, how efficiently I'm able to do it and manage it, the radiation process. Somewhere we are trying to bring in building that intelligence around based on the data and the workflow which we are trying to develop, which is the third fundamental capability to make anything this smart. So finally, I came to a conclusion to the key, if you are able to instrument, interconnect, and bring intelligence out of it, anything in this world can be made smarter. So when we are developing technologies and solutions, bring these three lenses. And why it becomes increasingly important by building the smart capabilities, that first thing is that in your own existing products and services, what you are trying to offer, you will be able to carve out a new revenue from those services, from your existing products, right? And that is one fundamental capability. How do we able to generate new revenue channel from your existing services? Second thing is that we can give any amount of money and buy a technology, right? But we need to also have some new ways of the working and culture to be built in terms of driving some of this transformation. So people and culture and establishing new ways of the working becomes a second important point. And the evolving business model. I will try to talk through some of these dimensions on that. So especially for a technology point of view, we frequently keep using this word called innovations and transformations. And again, I just want to simplify. I've just put one chart here. All the digitization and digital transformation work which we do, right? If I spend 100 rupees, am I getting an output of 200 rupees in my process, right? Incremental innovation up to 2x, 3x, 4x is one class of innovation, right? The second class of innovation by using of the technology that comes in through the business architecture level innovation, right? Like we spoke about real estate company becoming a data company, real estate company becoming a technology company, because finally everybody will get into the usage of the data, and digitization, digital transformation is primarily trying to drive some business architectural change, right? And with the new asset classes that people spoke about, right? The golf that is being done, hotels is a major focus. With the new asset classes coming into the play, slowly the data and the complexity and the ecosystem players around those asset classes increases. There is an increased view around the business architecture. The third important point of innovation, and which increasingly come, is that step change. Can I get 50x, 100x outcome through this reinventing the way we work is a step change innovation. So when we are developing any solutions or platforms or capabilities to bring multiple players within the ecosystem, what is that step change innovation? Is it a step changer innovation which is going to give me a 50x or a 100x over a period of as a growth story for it? Is a third category of innovation. And each one of it through the platform, right? What happens is you started serving your existing clients, then slowly with platform serving with more and more innovation, new ideas and everything, what also happens is you are trying to explore new services, new revenue channel, and slowly you are scaling and diversifying your existing services. And that's where through the platform, how much of the ecosystem players can come into your platform helps us to also get inside the service expansion. So whenever we talk about this innovation transformation, and specifically by bringing technology, very nicely spoke, right? We didn't have 30 years back mobile, but we still constructed. But today the scale and the speed in which we are doing has changed, because that's where the technology is going to do. And that is a step change function where the technology can play a difference, right? And that's the reason it's constantly, when you are into a platform way of doing the business, your operations, customer engagement, increasingly this becomes an important characteristics. I've just tried to put up a map, and this is something, a study which we were trying to do. How do we consumption of the services? Increasingly pay-per-use model is coming, and people don't want to completely lock their capital and cash associated. How do we make sense of pay-per-use model? Is there anything around the real estate as a service? Can we bring in together as a focus point? Is also an area to think through, whether it's related to the engagement, whether the documentation associated with that, whether the monetization of the data. One of the biggest thing which everybody is doing is that as you produce and construct all the assets, we are also constantly producing a lot of data. And how do we make use of the data, monetize this data? And a lot of platform development people think about what APIs I could generate, which will actually become a digital product which can be served within the community of the ecosystem place within the planet. And that is also another area of the focus. I think very nicely spoke about the ESG angle, right? Increasingly the net zero target, reducing the temperature of the planet come in. Each and every workflow which we define in the platform, what is that level of the ESGs can also an area to look through. So in any solutions and any workflow, whether you're using AI or an automation which you are trying to put up in the platform, what is that ESG also we are trying to drive, because that information may be available in multiple places, but when it comes to the platform, we are delivering the services to the platform. See from the ESG angle also as one of the point. So this is something which I've tried to put through with all the players, whether it's an owners, the builders, construction, facility management. One key point which I read through the statistics was almost close to 30% of the data is only within the community that build and own the facilities. The remaining almost 60 to 70% data is available with facility and other people who manage when it comes to the real estate standpoint. And hence, there is really a big need to see that how do we bring all the ecosystem players within the real estate into a common platform, and all the services, right from subscribing, the people who are coming to the platform, managing the information, security associated with that information, then all the third-party services, how do you run multiple campaigns so that more and more services could be offered associated with that? It will all play an important role. And as I spoke about the instrumented capability that is required for your intelligence, all the IoT sensor technology and the device ecosystem that is required, because we deal with more and more device ecosystem will go. And how do we manage all these device ecosystems where appropriately we are sitting comfortable with the right AC depending upon the outside temperature, inside temperature with lighting. So all these device ecosystem also needs to be integrated formally so that we're able to run a wonderful event like this, right? So all of it comes together, and these are all is going to come as part of, as a service can we try to drive and bring it to the platform is also an area of the thought process, right? I know that the time is up, but I will just try to conclude with this one important point here, right? See, we can build technologies, we can use this technology, build platforms and everything, right? But if you're not making profit, we will not be existent. So it's very important to know what is my value stick from a platform business which we are trying to deliver, right? And I will take example of how many of you take a Uber or take an Uber? Yeah, so many of that, right? So Uber found nicely that 21 years of the age, people who had license can be onboarded as drivers. And while they know that a ride can be made available, rather than they reaching out to people, the drivers with a car, automatically the platform was able to call them because they're all empaneled as drivers, and they were willing to sell their services, okay, beyond what they could use through. And let us assume the cost for what the driver incurs as the cost that he wants to spend, like 50 rupees thing or 100 rupees, let us take an example. Since you are getting multiple rides, the willingness to sell the services can come down below actual 100, because you are getting utilize your entire car, your presence, and the more you are able to drive, your willingness to sell the services come into the play, right? And if it is rain, traffic, and we want to take better service, beyond the price, we know for 100 rupees ride, if we need to pay 120, 50 rupees, still people are willing to pay higher services because you would want to beat the traffic congestions, your comfort, experience associated with that. So beyond the price, the willingness to pay is another part which we need to think through. And that is actually the value and the customer delight. So whatever solutions or the platforms which we are trying to develop for the real estate, think value, profits will follow. That is what I just want to highlight. And what value is constantly keep changing and the value stick, right? And we know if you take a flight from Bangalore to Mumbai, you have multiple airline services. But what is that people are willing to more and still take the other airline and still it is full is basically the customer delight and the additional value. So any kind of a platform and where we are trying to also connect to all the ecosystem players within the real estate, think the value and the customer divide, and that is where the willingness to pay come to this. So value stick brings in the financial angle to bring in all the ecosystem players together, and that becomes an important criteria in whatever the technology adoption we are trying to bring from the real estate standpoint. Okay. I will not spend much time, but I know the complexity and maturity within the industry we need to use of the technology. People spoke about the hybrid workforce, we spoke about the remote working, more and more global capability centers are coming. Today we have 1,600 global capability centers. It is a $40 billion services export that happens from India. It is pride of India. And again, if you see in the next 5 years down the line, this is going to become an $85 billion industry. And every month, new global capability centers are coming. So the requirement for the real estate is only going to increase. And we as technology enablers or technology accelerators for this business will play a large role, whether it's related to the digitization of your business process or whether it's optimizing the current existing asset portfolios. And how do we make use of build a consolidating in the IT operations as well as the platform way of doing the business to do business acceleration. And anyway, everybody is trying to work with that existing cash and how do you better make use of the existing funds, makes it a better adoption of technology related transformation initiatives. Okay. So thank you. I think you got time.
Thank you so much. I invite Mr. Abhay Garg to felicitate Mr. Subramanian for joining us today.